It's just not true. Unless you're on special weapons teams, unless you're in maneuver battalions, combat units, and so forth, you may get qualification time once a year so you remember which end of the gun the bullet comes out of. Gun owners or concealed handgun permit people generally train a lot more than the average soldier or police officer. Unless, you know, there are some, both police and military, that are very proficient with firearms, and they do a lot off duty. They have their own guns, they practice all the time, but they're a subset of the group. Many of us have taken very advanced technical and tactical courses, continue to do that, but being also a certified firearm safety instructor, obviously I'm very pro-training. I think it's great that everybody should get training, but I don't believe in government mandating the training. And the fact of the matter is, there is, once again, no statistical difference in firearms mishaps between places and people or times where training is not required to get a permit versus where it is. It's only been, what, 5 years since training has been required in Virginia, and it was put into place. Before that it was optional, and even then there was only about a third of all the jurisdictions that did require training to get a permit. Most of them did not, because it wasn't an issue, and it continues to be not an issue in places that don't require training. And that's because gun owners are responsible people. Some of the largest classes that we taught were in places that did not have localities that did not require training for permits. Gun owners are responsible people. But again, there's no statistical difference in gun mishaps between places that require training and don't. By and large, gun owners get the training that they need. One of the other things the anti-freedom lobby likes to tell us is, oh, they're going to arm students, they're going to pass out guns to the teachers and hand out guns to everybody here and there. And of course, that's very far from the truth. We respect the rights of people who don't want to carry firearms. We just ask them to respect our right to exercise a constitutional right. And as for and what it does is try to instill fear into the middle school teacher that doesn't know anything about, oh my, I don't want anybody to hand me a gun, I don't know anything about it. And so it instills fear in the unknowing. But the other thing about handing out guns, I don't know about the rest of you, I'm carrying a very nice Glock that I enjoy. I'm not about to hand it or give it over to anybody. I paid good money for this thing. I don't know about you, but I'm not giving it to anybody. But one of the things the anti-freedom lobby also are starting to harp on and point out, they're trying to create divisions between us and the police. They say, oh, we endanger law enforcement, we're dangerous, and we put too many risks to the law enforcement. If you look around, there are organizations, national organizations of police chiefs and so forth, and some other higher up mucky mucks that for the most part are appointed political hacks. And they support their political overlords and so forth. They're not really street cops, they're not really police. Rank and file police officers overwhelmingly support the Second Amendment, support good citizens who carry firearms, overwhelmingly. And that's actually, the truism of that is reflected in the fact that within the membership of VCDL here, there are many, many, many of us that are former and current or retired military, police, law enforcement, right here within our ranks. And just to get a show, and I'm taking a risk doing this because they always say if you go to court, never ask a question that you don't know the answer to. But let me get some hands up of those of you in the group here that are either retired or former or veterans or current military or police. Hey. Very good. Whew, that's a relief. I'm glad I got the right answer there. Okay. But essentially, that's all I had to say, and once again, I thank you profusely from the bottom of my heart for all of you coming out here on a cold day to do the right thing, to do a great thing, and everything that you do really matters. Believe me when I tell you that. You're so important to everything that we do. You're the folks that make it happen by coming out here and walking these halls with us. Thank you very much.
Always a tough act to follow. Yeah, I mean, all these familiar faces out here, it's just wonderful to stand up here and see you guys. It's wonderful. You put out a call and you guys show up. The next speaker actually ended up being a neighbor who's running for Congress, but she's not going to give a political speech. She you know, like a lot of us have had a little experience with the Second Amendment. Her name is Jamie Radke. Senate. I'm sorry, Senate. Jamie's running for the United States Senate. So, Jamie, if you want to come up here. I taught Jamie and her husband how to shoot, as a matter of fact. For better or for worse.
How are the freedom-loving Virginians doing today?
Yeah, doing good.
It is wonderful to be here, not just as a special guest speaker, but as a proud member of VCDL. Yes! I'm a proud member, and like Philip said, I had the best training in Virginia, personally, from Philip Van Cleve, and took me shopping for handguns and everything, so I got the best. I want to start this off by something you're very familiar with. You help me. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And why was government instituted? To protect these rights. And where do they get their power? From the consent of the governed. Now let me ask you something. How do you protect your life without the Second Amendment? How do you protect your liberty without the Second Amendment? How do you protect your property without the Second Amendment? It is absolutely imperative that we continue to advocate and fight for our basic right to keep and bear arms, which, by the way, in the Second Amendment does not say after you secure a permit. Am I right?
Oh yeah.
Is there anywhere in the Second Amendment that says that you have the right to keep and bear arms as long as you obtain a permit?
No.
No. It is your basic right to have a Second Amendment. The Second Amendment just outlines what those rights are. You know, most Americans don't appreciate the Second Amendment and the importance that the founders attached to this. I mean, think about it. Patrick Henry, George Mason, Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, James Monroe, all believed that the central government would tend to become too powerful and oppressive unless citizens were able to protect themselves with the Second Amendment, right? If we are to preserve our rights, not just the right to bear arms, but all our precious rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and who are we protecting our rights from? A tyrannical government is who we're protecting our rights from nowadays. We must remind our fellow citizens of the essential purpose of the Second Amendment. There must be a renewed dedication to the principles that our republic was founded on, especially the Second Amendment. A people who are disarmed cannot effectively resist a government that is oppressive. We cannot forget about our right to free expression, our right to be free from unreasonable search and seizures, and all the other rights we lack. That is why the Second Amendment is so important. You know what Justice Alito said? Supreme Court Justice Alito said that the right to self-defense is protected by the Second Amendment and is fundamental to the American conception of ordered liberty. That's right, from ordered liberty. Now, unfortunately, the national media and the others among us, the America's cultural elite, not only distort the history of the Second Amendment, but they also promote an agenda that would deprive individuals of the right to their own firearms. And this is why I am such a proud member of VCDL. I honestly believe that VCDL is the most, by far, effective group in protecting our Second Amendments in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Absolutely.